Ladies and gents, for today's episodes, I have next to me Alexandru Bogdan, the co-founder and co-CEO of Linnify, a true blood Linnifyan from the beginning that has joined us today to share some of the ups and downs, the hidden doors, the hidden secrets of what actually does it take to swim in a red software development ocean. Hi, Alex, and thanks for accepting this invitation.
Hi, Darius. Pleasure being here and looking forward for those spicy and interesting questions you have prepared in the agenda.
Okay, let's get into it. So let's talk a bit about Linnify, about the founders over there, how you guys started, and what's the mission and the vision over here from early days to nowadays.
Right. So we started when we were in the last year in the university. We were three founders, two tech guys, one business guy. We were all studying at the time, and one of us, Razvan, uh, came at one point and said, "Why? Let's start a business because we're in tech. We did so many. We read about so many things. We were talking about opening a business for a year already. Why not just do it?"
Mm-hmm.
And he was in France at an internship, and he encountered an issue there with doing the groceries. He was living far from the supermarket. He had to go to the supermarket, buy the groceries, carry the bags, go on the subway, go to the apartment. It was a long walk, and it was tiring. And he thought, why not simplify this and create a product that delivers to you the groceries on demand? You're just in the apartment. You put an order, you get the groceries at your apartment. And this was the first thing. He came back and said, "Okay, we've been talking about starting a business. Let's just do this." And we knew each other from kindergarten, actually. And also, we went to the same high school, same university. And his apartment colleague, Catalin, our other co founder, they were living together. We were also in the same high school. He was studying business. We were discussing with him in parallel about the same thing. And we said, yes, let's just do it. And what we did at the time, we took a piece of paper and we started writing cool ideas. We just didn't know, but we said, let's just put all the cool ideas that we have and we can build and try to start with one. And in the end, we decided to go with the on demand grocery shopping platform that I was mentioning previously. We started with the knowledge that we had right then and there, which wasn't a lot. We went to an apartment and we stayed in an apartment and we worked for 6 months without testing it out. And we came out with a product that we said it's gonna work wonderfully, but we didn't validate it with anyone except family and friends. I mean, the standard mistake that everybody does. So
Yeah.
of course it didn't work out as we expected. So
Yeah, but that's great, right? Because you've actually discovered what it is to work out a passion, right? So an
mhm,
ideal that will fuel and glue a team, right? Because I can see that
right.
money is no longer working in some occasions, or it's not suffice. So just a few key mentions over here. You guys had some history already. You grown together. You got your educations and common backgrounds. You knew your family, so there's that level of trust that's needed over there between founders, co-founders, to say so. And you decide to invest all your energy in this pilot, right? So let's talk
Mhm.
about most important lessons from a failed pilot. First, so starting with a failure, I think it's one great way to build an appetite for risk, tolerance, get thicker skin over there. So let's talk about the most important lessons that you've learned from this.
That's a very good point. Building high tolerance. I wanted to mention one more thing on top of that. So the first three people that joined our team were did that after the 3 months after we started or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and we were a team of six. And we got to that point where we said this is not working as we expected. We didn't get a partnership with a big retailer. We weren't doing that much revenue. We did some revenue, but not enough. We weren't scaling. We weren't getting traction. And we said, what now? And at that point in time, I've heard so many times the question, the balancing, would you work with friends or with people that you don't know? And
Mm-hmm.
for us, that moment when we were able to stay at the same table and had that tough conversation about we have to stop this because we're not getting where we want to go, it was difficult. Some of us were more in love with the product than others. Some of us wanted to say, okay, I would rather do this for 6 more months. And some said if we do this, I don't want to be involved in the team anymore. And it was difficult. And that lesson showed me that working with close people, with friends, people that you know, brings an advantage that you can talk more openly about these issues. I mean, you do not have the same barrier that you would have with someone that you don't know. At least from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I since that moment I've been an advocate about working with people that if you have a choice and you can work with someone that you know and you're heading in the same direction, do that because it's going to be easier to communicate. You're going to be more open, and even if you get upset, it's gonna last less amount of time than if you wouldn't know each other because you know it's not personal because you already knew for a long time and you know it's just business. You're talking business then.
Well, I think we cannot eradicate completely feelings, right? As you said, some might be more in love with a
Yeah.
product than others. But having this radical candor with those which are close and we can be transparent with, I believe also that it can amplify the flow, whether it's communication or execution or whatever it is. But I think what's peculiar to say so about this period that you're describing is also from my recollection with conversations had with Razvan back then was that you guys were ahead of the time, right? A bit over
Mhm.
here. It's also kind of a virgin concept to go at Cora, Carrefour, Auchan, Lidl, and tell them, look, people are going to do this even in Eastern Europe, and they have this problem in the West, and you know what? It's just a matter of time. So I do recall touching base over here with him about this back then.
Yes, and we didn't do validation, and there was a minus, but we took it from a perspective where we said, okay, this is working in the US. This is starting to work in the West, so it should work here as well. And that was our assumption.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we did not do was we didn't talk that much with customers, and that was another important lesson that we learned. Customer comes first. I mean, they will not necessarily know how to build a solution, but
Yeah.
they will be able to tell you how they encounter the problem. And that's what we didn't do. We said everybody encounters the problem as we do, and we saw so many nice to haves, and we built a huge product instead of focusing on that core function that satisfies their needs, which was going to the store, buying groceries for them, and delivering them to their homes. Now we built that, and in over that, we also built something that was able to you were able to take a recipe and you click the recipe and you would put all the products in your cart. You were able to have a shopping list, a lot of features that nobody used. Nobody didn't even know they were on the platform because we didn't talk to them. We just thought, I think it's cool if we build that and we build that. And we just kept building instead of focusing on what mattered, talking to the customers and understanding how can we improve their experience on that initial flow, that MVP that should have been the first thing that we launched. And that's the lesson that we learned. Focus on customers and their
Mm-hmm.
needs and keep a very close connection to them. And that's going to lead to something maybe later down the road in our conversation. But that was
Mm-hmm.
the first time when we hit that point where we said validation, product validation, market validation is the most important thing understanding the market when you're trying to launch a product. Some of an
Mm-hmm.
area that not everybody covers and not everybody thinks about because people think if they have capital, they can just put capital in the product and at some point it's going to work. And It might, but it's going to cost a lot more if you do it that way.
Well, I think Wall Street service so many case studies that have failed with just pumping money into something that doesn't have market validation. So I think we can get thousands of examples over here for the past 20, 30 years. But I really resonate with what you said in terms of validation because I've been taking I would say a cross step. It's not a step back or a step forward. I've been taking a cross step into the BPO world, interlinking it with the software development with the IT. And I was shocked the first time when I saw how important is customer experience and a customer experience department or a customer success department or a customer support department, however you want to call it, or a community
Yeah.
department, right? In the
Right.
validation, development, testing, and successfully selling a product. And I was surprised to see that the vision of founders of that product, right, was not applicable on the market. And the
Mm-hmm.
customers came back and they told the developers what to actually do and how to tailor that and how to make that successful. So for me, the first time I've experienced this, it was a very strong eye opener, right? Like it was for you this lesson. And I quickly came to understand that underestimating the role of such a line of business department or business unit in general can result in immediate failure and extremely painful failure with respect to all the energy and money invested over there. Do you feel the same way now after this experience?
Right. Yes, because so we chose to focus on the solution, not on the problem, and this is the choice that a lot of founders that we've been working with were doing. They were choosing to focus on the solution. I mean, if they would focus on the solution and they would ask what people actually want without understanding why they need it, I mean, if it's a saying that I really like from Ford. If Ford would have asked people what they want, they would have said a faster horse.
Mm-hmm.
No, he tried to understand what the problem is and then he built the car. So it's the same thing. Asking them, do you like my solution? Is this what you want me to build for you? No. Try to look at them and see how they're living their day-to-day life and experiencing the problem and trying to understand that. So I'm I'm completely aligned on what you mentioned. I mean, customer support is a very good um, middleman or role or position or how, department, however we want to call it, that keeps you close to to that user. As we're building products and not having our own product right now, I cannot speak into how we experience having a customer support department, but I can speak from the position in which when we launched our second product that also didn't make it on the market, but the second that we tried, uh, I was very close contact with the customers that we were having,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, we were able to in real time bring updates to the software that were exactly what the customers needed. So it was a lot better because we were building the product in the needs of the customer. So I can speak to that. It was really helpful doing it.
Yeah, and I think staying closer to the trenches, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that it seems to be a curse in executive leadership in general because as the company grows, there are more and more layers over there, and you see more spreadsheets and tables and graphs, but you might miss a lot of the essence if you're not staying close to the trenches. So I'm a big advocate of going, deep diving, going into the
Mm-hmm.
trenches, taking the pulse, spending time with folks, dedicating some time. And I think that can, I've seen on numerous occasions in which, granular, important, critical details came out, but just then staying in the same room with them as opposed to just, looking at an Excel sheet. So
Mm-hmm.
I would have a word of advice for those that are looking into investing into such a department. We can call a department even if it's two folks over there.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, if software development and this will be my advice on this topic, and I'll double check with Alexandru, who is a guru, a Jedi over here. So my advice would be if you can afford a business analyst over there, and the the co-CEO or the CEO or the founder is playing this role, make sure that there's someone that is passionate about using a product and willing to help in his own way, natural human way, because he will translate into words what's not working with that. And that guy might have a different advantage. He might be able to get closer to your guys, to your users, than someone who is with a very techy background will have that possibility, being a bit polluted over there in his way of hearing the feedback because he's very familiar with that product or has helped developing that product. So get someone out there that is passionate about hearing problems and then translating them into like wild ideas. So that's the first good way to start from somewhere with a let's say bootstrapping budget. Alex, what do you think?
Yes, one key thing you mentioned is someone that didn't build the product because it's the same as when you're looking, for example, at developers and quality assurance engineers. If you build it and you test it, you're not going to think of new ways because you already built it. I mean, of course, you have test driven development and so on, but if someone builds it and someone else tests it, it's different. It's the same with the product. If someone builds the product and someone is not necessarily that involved in those business aspects or into how the product got built and just listens and is not involved in the day-to-day but listens to the problems, it's different than if the product manager, product owner, whatever the role would be in the team would go there because they would listen to them through the filter of what they were already doing when they were building the product without letting that entire wide
Yeah.
range of perspectives to come in. So
Yeah.
they're more boxed in because you're already boxed in the product. It's hard to take the step back.
Yeah, so you wouldn't think, right? You have those strings attached, and you wouldn't think of that question or that scenario because you've already got all those information in your head. So, just make a small recap. Some of the things that you've learned so far were, focused on communication flow and trust, and radical candor, with validation being a key element in the success of the product, and with the fact that I would say as number three, timing is important. Timing is extremely important and is linked with validation over there. Is there any other valuable lesson you would like to share before we move to today's role and mission for Linnify?
So I think you captured those beautifully, Darius. So
Okay.
with those.
And by the way, it saved you a lot of money from going to an MBA by just opening this pilot and having a failure. So you should be grateful for this. No one died, right? So we can move forward and be smarter and keener and wiser about it. Okay. So let's talk about today, right? We've grown a lot. How much is it now? Have you reached the 10 years milestone, or is it 8, or is it 7?
It's 7. We got to 7 years in October 2023, and right now we're around 40 people. We've built over 70 products, 4 different continents. Worked with small companies, medium companies, big companies, a lot of industries, but we're looking to niche, and this is what we're doing. We've been doing for the last years, trying to niche ourselves on healthcare, education, well-being, and now we're looking as well at energy or in the future of work. But those are some new areas that we're trying to tap into. Um, and yes, it's been quite a journey. Quite a journey.
But
In
can I interrupt you a bit? Because before you jump into it, you've said something really important. So what I'm reading between the lines is that we tried many things, but we understood which are the projects we don't necessarily have to take, but we love to take because they resonate with our mission. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So,
and you asked me a question previously that I didn't answer to. What's the mission, the vision? Where did we start from? Where are we now? We started with a motto because we didn't have a mission or a vision when we started. We didn't know about those. We started and we said, what's Linnify doing? Linnify is simplifying life through innovation. And as we grew, this changed into two things. Our mission is keeping everyone, keeping our clients, partners, everyone committed to their success. What does it mean keeping them committed to their success? It means that ourselves sometimes will challenge them as a partner or a contractor. We'll challenge them saying, are you sure this is the right way of doing it? Did you talk to customers? Trying to challenge them in a productive way so they get to a truth that helps their business succeed. The same internally. So we keep people committed to their success. I'm going to ask you, what do you want to do? And then you're going to say, I want to be the best. Okay, I know this is what you want. I hear you. I'm going to keep you committed. Even when it's good, it's going to be perfect. When it's more difficult, you need to be next to them and try to push them forward. And in terms of the vision, we take the authentic ideas and we transform those authentic ideas into digital products that dare to change the way people experience life. This is our focus. We are focused on trying to change how each of us experience life. This is why we are focusing right now. And we chose those areas that we would love to have more products in. And we are focusing on having more products in healthcare, education, because by focusing on those, we're going to that core. For example, education, we see it as a core. Everything comes from education. If people are educated, they're going to live better lives, and then we're going to have more innovation. And if we're focusing on healthcare, that's one of the core things that you can focus on to improve the way people experience life from our perspective. And it's led to selecting the industries as well, going to that direction. So it's all going from multiple areas in the same point. Changing how dare to change how people experience life.
What I find very interesting, and I want to congratulate you guys for sticking to your values and transitioning in this direction and navigating closer to what self-actualization is, whether you're a business owner or the business itself. But I think there's a phase we each go through as a startup in which bootstrapping, budgets are tight. It's important to just get something over there to get the cash flow and the blood of the company circulating over there. So make sure that the heart is kept alive. But as we have a bit of success, we constantly are challenged with the question, what's next? What's representative of me? What's the way I see I can contribute with added value towards this industry. So some of the areas in which you have chosen to go towards, and you've mentioned healthcare, education, well-being, energy. Of course, they are on vogue right now, but that doesn't mean that they will stop being on vogue because the world itself is transforming in this direction. So what I'm trying to give the heads up over here for others starting a business, you have to be careful out there that something is not just temporary on vogue, right? Like fashion would be, like the color of the year, for example, right? So we must make sure that you can see that there's a lot of statistics out there, guys. You can review them. So if you see that more and more parents are taking children out of school and self-educating them online, uh, you would guess that there's an increase in demand over there for educational platforms or educational products, right? And those have to be built by someone like Linnify or together with someone like Linnify. So that's really interesting, and I think niching is one of the first steps in taking considerable steps away from being a vanilla software development agency, right? Our theme today is swimming in a red software development ocean, right? A lot of agencies over there. So um, we had a separate chat. I would like to come back to it, in which we talked about the barriers of entry over here. It's is it hard to just start like a software agency? Because I see more and more with each day, and they're all offering the same thing, by the way.
That's a very good question. I see entry barriers increasing due to different factors, and it's more competitive than before. Especially now, I will take at one point with the launch of all the generative AIs, all the tools that enable you to build faster, to reduce the development life cycle of a product, the development cycle of a
Mm-hmm.
product, this shorten. Also, the learning curve of new people shortens, not necessarily because they have the knowledge, but because they can go in a GPT or in another model and they can use it to create code. They don't necessarily have to be as good of a developer. The product might have multiple bugs and some security vulnerabilities, but they can deliver it, and they will deliver it. I've seen a statistic last year, around half of the code that was deployed on GitHub was from with the use of generative AI. I think it was Copilot and other tools, but it's increasing, which means lower entry barrier for everyone to this field as well, even though they are not good. But a client that has no tech skills will not know how to pick them. They will not know if that's a good company or not, because it's only your brand that makes you stand apart, where you say, okay, we know because we've heard about them, or the word of mouth, someone telling you they are good. And the other thing where a lot of um, a lot of new companies come on the market right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide the same thing. They don't have a differentiator anymore because it's difficult to bring, especially at the
Yeah.
entry layer. It's difficult to have a differentiator because if you start soon, because this is what everybody wants, they want to have a company as soon as possible. They won't have the time to acquire the domain knowledge in a certain industry. For example, I have 10 years working experience, for example, in the health space. Now I'm not. We started the company from as a software agency, and that's becoming difficult to acquire the domain knowledge. And that's just all the investments and all the time that you put in. But now with the access to information, that starting that of a company becomes easier than it
Mm-hmm.
was before because everybody transitions slightly towards tech and they want to try this. And also, one thing for which I would say it's becoming more difficult is that the entire hybrid approach of work or remote approach of work that started during the pandemic had an impact on the salaries. I mean, in the countries, for example, let's say Eastern European countries, maybe some Asian countries, but I think you know better there is a lot of the salaries were, for example, a bit lower than they were in the US or in the West. And there was a high incentive for them because right now everybody was working from home anyway.
Yeah.
And it was an incentive for them to start to reach towards those parts of the world and start to diversify their workforce. And this is happening, which means it pushes salaries higher, and this makes it a bit more difficult for players in smaller markets to compete with those big players. For example, let's say Google comes into Romania or in a different country in Eastern Europe. It's very difficult to compete to them at the compensation package level. So
And
yeah.
if I can add a short bracket, what I'm seeing is that the pandemic has laid the perfect environment over there for experienced developers to gather some courage over there and open a sole trader or an LTD and just start
Mhm.
poking clients and say, would you like to work directly with me? Because I can charge you 20-30% less than the agency because I don't have, the fixed costs over there and the office and everything. And I'll work as your dedicated resource. And
Mhm.
it's been a hockey stick effect over here of hiring senior developers like this. And they were integrating as being their labor force over there, right, directly on website or on LinkedIn or everything. But in reality, they were just contractors jumping the middleman over there, the agency, and them getting a significant hike with this occasion because they were running this through their
Mhm.
own agency. So the phenomena that I've seen in those 2 years, it was absolutely wild. But then comes also the downturn, right? When there's a recession and everything, who gets cut first? And then that starts with contractors. I won't deviate from this because that's a
Mhm.
separate topic that we have about the crisis and the recession and the lessons learned over there. But I did see this phenomena also, and I did see the same dangers that you are exposing and making it harder these days to actually just start from somewhere and with respect to the expectations that the talent has in terms of compensation package.
hmm Because before we started, it was easy. I mean, especially in the IT industry, it's easy to start because you need a laptop. You
Hmm.
don't need the latest laptop. You just need the
Yeah.
laptop to code, and that's it. And an internet connection. You don't need to invest a lot into I don't know what type of equipment to build or lease very
Hmm.
expensive equipment. But before, even before there was a high difference between, for example, trying to do this with a very low incentives, for example, very low salary because you want to start it for later down the road benefits. But now this is so big, it starts increasing so much, and it's very difficult to start because why would you start anymore? I mean, the difference is so high that it's difficult to find that incentive in trying to start your own company rather than go work for, I don't know, a very big one, a
Yeah.
multinational, or again, trying to do it on your own because all the mechanisms are easier, are at the tip of your fingers before they weren't. And because you have a lot more opportunities, people are going to try to work on increasing the one that's most important for them. For some, might be salary. For some, might be satisfaction or community. But for the ones that is going to be salary, is not
Yeah.
no longer
Well,
that is no longer
motivation,
worrying
yeah,
them.
I agree with you. Motivation can 100%, decrease to start your own business if you're already on a
Mm-hmm.
very good salary. Let's face it, in the IT industry, even in Romania or in Eastern Europe, there were never low salaries. If we compare with a bus driver or a cashier from Lidl
Yes.
or someone selling bread over at the street or someone, that helps you deliver your groceries or works in a hotel business, salaries were X times more than, to compare over here. So you never started from a very uncomfortable position. But as you grew more senior, the position got so comfortable comparing to the living costs over here before the inflation, and even nowadays, let's face it. It's that, why go through the extra hustle when you're already living 4 times, 5 times, 10 times better than the average citizen over there to actually start a business? So now I'm asking you, why do this? Why start a business?
Well, because some people are more crazy than others. Because uh, no, I've read a very good article that said that entrepreneurs have to be naive.
Yep.
And I've read it and I was thinking, am I naive? And they had a very good explanation. They said if anyone would be that experienced in a field to take into account all the variables that can happen,
Yep.
they would start a business. You have to think that you can make it because you do not see everything that can go wrong. And then you go for that and you do everything that you can to make it succeed. So I would say it's a bit of naivety that you can succeed, but also a lot of drive and passion that you can make a bit more, you can bring a bigger impact into the world. And I believe as an experience of
Hmm.
trying to do this, it's it's something that you learn a lot more than going the I would say the standard path of walking certain steps
So just
because you're
the
able to
corporate
understand more
ladder.
of the how the work. Yeah.
Yeah, you mean corporate ladder, investment
Yes.
in time versus starting your own business. Yeah, I agree with
Yes.
that, and I also believe it's one of the greatest ways to actually learn business in general. So I don't know if, yeah, universities are great and over there, or we can see it and as a ideal way to test your theory, right? Well, you've
Mm-hmm.
learned that this is how it happens. Well, you can see how muddy and murky it gets in reality, right? Yeah, where's the first aid kit? Who's gonna help you, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I see things the same way. I do believe that some naivety is needed over there, but not to ignore what is out there, to just continue
Mm-hmm.
pushing regardless of what is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about dumb fools over there who cannot foresee some of these risks. They're just trying to find the methods how to make these risks
Mm-hmm.
be calculated and chewable in the end so they can continue with this business. So, yeah, very interesting observation you
There's
had
if I
there.
if I were let me just say something. If I were to come down to three
Please.
drivers, I see three drivers I see from the startup side we've been working with, and some that I feel as well. When you start something, I see three different drivers. One is passion. You're passionate about something. I'm very passionate about solving a certain problem, and I'm building a product, or I'm trying to bring some value into that. Another one is you know to do something really well, for example, some technology. And another one that we're talking about right now a bit more is opportunity. You see an opportunity in the market. You see that there's something that's missing. For example, we saw an opportunity in the market. There was no on-demand grocery shopping platform in Romania. We tried to build the first.
Yeah.
So we saw an opportunity. It wasn't our passion. It wasn't, we want to solve this problem. This is what we were thinking about for the past 5 years. There was an opportunity. So it depends. Some people might see opportunities. Some people might see passion in the same thing. Maybe some other founders that would have been the passion, that core passion for them to solve that issue. So at any problem that we're looking at, I think all the three drivers can be found in the same issue, but from different actors. So even with the outsourcing company, it was more, for example, for us when we started right now. I don't know if we would start right now. I don't know if we would be at ground zero if we would make the same choices. If we would be at ground zero, I think we would try another product because right now the software agencies market, the software agency model and is so competitive and there are so many on the market that the entry barriers are so high and it's very difficult to find a differentiator. I mean, we built our differentiator, but it took us 7 years to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a living creature. It will continue to evolve
Mm-hmm.
with you guys, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
differentiator will continue to take new shapes and new ways and new forms. And for me, the best differentiator, to share a bit from my point of view over here, I see the nowadays what's happening in the IT BPO industry as a wild west kind of situation because most of the clients in a one of my favorite experiences is working with founders in general or creators or innovators, right? So they quit their job, they've taken some economies, they had a Series A over there, and they had some loans, and now they're starting a product. And the next 3 years for them, it's all about building a baby, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about working with these folks, and I get a lot of energy from them. But at the same time, they're extremely vulnerable in this red ocean because they are vulnerable to whatever someone tells them of a lower price, of a quicker delivery date, of uh, let's say shorter delivery
Mm-hmm.
cycle, of more sprints in the same price, of multi-talented UX UI tester and mid developer in the same person. And they are extremely vulnerable. So I've seen that one of the greatest differentiators that has worked for me is helping them see the pitfalls, helping
Mm-hmm.
them how what others promise as a differentiator can backfire if they switch from working with me. How did this
Mm-hmm.
work for you?
Um, I would. It's an interesting positioning, the one you took. It's something I wouldn't say we do the same thing. What we when we're working with clients as a differentiator, we say, all right, so a lot of people, as I was saying, come with capital and they just want to throw money at the thing and make it
Mm-hmm.
work. I want an app. Here's the money, build the app, and it's gonna work. It's not that simple. And this is what we say. It's not that simple. Let's see if this is worth building first. So I'm, we are your partner. We want you to succeed. We want to help you through this process. Of course, it depends on the type of client, but let's say the client that wants to start their own business right now, a startup, or an SME that wants to build a product that they want to launch in the market that might spin off at some point or something like that. We on your side want to make sure this succeeds, but for this we need to understand the market. Some of them might have done some homework, some not. So we go on alongside them and we say we don't need all the money right now. I mean, you want to build a product, fine. You have this budget, perfect. Let's start small, even though we can close the entire contract right then and There we say, okay, now let's go through phases, phase one, phase two, phase three. And phase one would be understanding the market need. And then when we check that and we see there's an interest, then we move to phase two. And this is how we building trust, because I say someone else might say, okay, yes, give me all the money. And if you go to someone else, start working with them, they're going to build a product. And at the end, you might have lost 10 times more because you didn't validate. With us, it takes a bit longer, but you're making sure that you're doing the right steps. It's data driven. It's market even better than that. It's your market driven based on your customers, what they want. And when you're going to launch it, you're going to make sure that this is working. And there's a high probability you're going to earn revenue out of it. I mean, we cannot say 100% it's going to work, but we're increasing the chances significantly.
Yeah.
This is how we're positioning ourselves towards them in trying to have them come to us and more of a value-based approach instead of saying, okay, it's going to cost this much and I'm going to give you this amount of hours. It's value-based. I'm going to help you build a successful product. I'm selling you that value, and we're more working towards that fixed price project in which we're trying to say, okay, let's try to find those blocks of work that deliver you value that we're going to discuss, or how much value, and then we're going to take a part of it. Because it's working in our advantage as well, and it's a win-win situation. This is what we're looking in most of the situations. So of course, we have the standard of the collaborations in which it's time and materials, X amount of hours, X amount of
Yeah,
income.
we're
So
familiar with time and materials, and I think that's
yeah,
one way of looking at it that
yeah.
will fit into an Excel sheet. But as you said, so I'm I'm
Yeah.
I'm get, I'm reading between the lines over here some of the unique selling proposition or USP that Linnify has over here. So that would be transparency and a partnership in the way that resources are managed and how you help the founders actually understand how they should validate their ideas and put it out there
Mhm.
over as a product. And what I do see also as a USP, I don't know if you guys consider it or not, because from the methodology that you're telling me that you're approaching is actually what you have learned from your first failure. So it's I think I'm always I always give the highest attention to those that have failed and talk
Mhm.
from failure rather than just working with a consultant or someone that knows the exceptional theory that is out there. But when I challenge them and see, well, what are the downsides in applying this in practice, they can tell you four or five which are general, but they cannot tell you specifically what would not work in an industry or a case study or not. So
Mhm.
for me, you guys having this experience really worth a lot, and I can see that you have your blisters and your lesson learned over there. So although you're talking about someone else's money, you still take the same approach as it would be your money, your
Mhm.
budget over there. What else can we say about the unicality, about the fact that we stand aside and you can see us in a pool of software development agencies.
Mm. What you mentioned into what we're providing is we call it validation driven development. This is what we're providing. We're providing validation driven development, and in terms of something unique as well, we said you touched a very good point. We had a startup that we stopped, and then we built another one that we stopped, and then we started working with customers that had, let's say, some startups, some types
Hmm.
of spin-offs, some of them. Again, they failed because they didn't do that research. And then we said, okay, we've worked with so many startups and we've tried so many initiatives on our own. I think we are at number 10 already.
Hmm.
A product that we either developed or we were involved in developing partially, or we have some stakes in. Some of them are working, some of them are not. But this is what led us to building this process, this validation process, this methodology that we have right now. And what we go is we were a startup, we work with startups, and this is what we're providing as well to, for example, to corporates, because they have this issue that they want to build like a startup, but they cannot because they have a lot of bureaucracy, they have a lot of processes, but they want to be more flexible, more agile. They want to launch new products,
That's just
but
theory.
they say, yeah,
That's just a statement on the website. I can tell you
yeah.
there's a lot of handicap over there in terms of nimbleness and agileness.
And this is where we come in. We say, okay, this is what we're doing. We're like a SWAT team that comes in and helps you come
Mm-hmm.
with better solution, faster solution to innovate and validate your ideas on the market. And it's easier to work with a partner to do that rather than having teams go through your internal approval processes. So we come up as a partner and say, this is where we can come and help you because we connect with a startup. Because we are a company that has been doing that since it started. We did it ourselves. As you mentioned, we did it ourselves. We know what the issues are. We've been founders in multiple products, so we understand. We
Mm-hmm.
know, and we can help you do better at that. That's another thing that we can say it's unique. We didn't start as an agency. We started as a startup and then transitioned to another startup and then transitioned due to need because we've been bootstrapping for 1.5 years and we had to get revenue from somewhere and we started outsourcing
Yep.
the plain outsourcing model, selling hours, the time and materials one in the beginning. And this is because we need to get some revenue. And then we grew into this approach.
Yeah, we had an entire debate on the topic of, buy the lease, B.O.T solutions, invest and promote your own product. And I think we concluded over here that, we cannot really pull line in the sand and draw it over there and just say, we're going to just do buy the lease, or each has its pros and cons for sure. But what's vital is that we always have an answer for our cash flow problems over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cost of resources, the cost of software licenses, the cost of gadgets, and what else is needed over here. You don't want to miss any term over there, or have any
Mm-hmm.
bumps on the road just because there wasn't suffice or enough planning from a cash flow perspective. And just to consume this topic as we concluded, so I don't forget about it, guys. There's no secret formula. There's no magic formula. Basically, just look at your services. Look at what you can offer. Then look which are, I'm talking about bootstrapping mode or startup mode, or just starting your agency mode, and then you have to test and see which revenue lines can help you develop and get closer to your core values or your mission or your vision over there. If you're going to be too picky, you might leave money on the table. If you're going to not do your due diligence over there, you'll take projects which you will lose revenue, will be more painful for you because you'll have to bring money from home. But at the end of the day, the lessons will be invaluable. So a lot of added value over there for the next time or next occasion that will rise up there, and you'll get to see it and analyze it and take a decision. So Alex, can we conclude over here? There's no secret formula. You just have to find your own mix according to your mission and vision.
Yes, and I would add one thing, look for new opportunities. Because even when we started, we took, for example, maybe I'm a bit more technical now, but
Mm-hmm.
React Native started around the same time when we started. It was still in beta, if I remember correctly, or just got out of beta, and we started doing React Native. When it was new on the market, it was a new
Yeah.
technology. Nobody was using it then, but then it became popular. And we were experts in it because we started from ground zero. So if I were to look right now, I would look at what happens with all the generative AI models that are being launched.
Yep.
Trying to find that differentiator and being one of the first that starts using that in a different way than the entire market, trying to find that position. So look for the opportunities that are in the market right now or might become better opportunities in 1 to 2 years. Because now everything moves so fast that maybe if you look for what's right now, someone else is already on top of that. And maybe look a few months ahead trying to forecast or trying to see, yeah, to predict what might be happen if you're trying to start something.
Yeah, and this is the perfect segue to actually go towards the next question because in order to be able to think about the future, you need headroom over there and bandwidth as a co-founder. So, how is it to have multiple co-founders and coexist and split tasks and run a business?
Uh, from my perspective, it was a wonderful, and it was wonderful, and we were very lucky that we were more co-founders because when we started, we were young. We didn't have that much background. I mean, we've been working. I've been working in multinational
Yeah.
and so on, but we didn't have background in running a business or a background on management positions, and none of us had a certain set of skills. I mean, we had the natural skills and some knowledge that we gathered during university, but as we
Hmm.
started doing things, we said, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this. For example, going to do sales, I'm going to do tech, I'm going to do the legal and the financials. And we started growing into this. And we complemented each other as we grew. I mean, we changed responsibilities along the way. For example, in the first years, they kept changing until we found that exact formula. But that's because we didn't have very strong background before. If you would have had, it would have been easier in my perspective to split those responsibilities, but now they got split based on what we acquired during those years. And it's better because you have other people that you can talk to in the tough moments, in the challenging moments. I always, it's difficult even when you're multiple co-founders. I cannot imagine how difficult and challenging it might be when you're only one person because you have no one that backs you up when it's tough. And for example, you can be top of your game 11 months a year, and then 1 month comes, and then I don't know, you have some, God forbid, some family problems or something, and you cannot be focused on the business, and there's no one else to back you there, and you have to be in two places at the same time. You're still going to have to be in two places at the same time when you have multiple co-founders, but at least if something's really bad, you have someone else there that can help you go through it. And I make an analogy, it's like running a, I always think of it like running a marathon. And if you're multiple people that, and this extends to the
Hmm.
entire culture of a company, but it starts from the top. When you're running, you're not going to be able to run at the same speed, but you might be running faster for 2-3 kilometers, and then someone else
Yep.
goes ahead of you, and you're staying behind, but then you're gonna get tooled by them, and you're gonna run faster as well. So it's like running together in the same direction. It doesn't matter who scores because it's going to fluctuate, but when you're more, it's easier because you see someone else going faster for a while. It inspires you. It inspires you that you can do more when you're in those low moments. I would say this is the advantage because if everything would be good, I mean, not necessarily, but it's for the inspiration you get in those moments where you can find ways to grow faster and even more than you would do if you were on your own.
No,
I
that
hope it
that's
covers
yeah.
it.
No. That's very valuable insight, right? Talking from experience over there, and I would be curious to see, and this intertwines with a different question that I have. So now that we are multiple co-founders, and maybe thinking of even bringing others, as giving them shares and a bit of stake over there in the game. What do we
Mhm.
look for when we build that executive team that's going to take this and navigate it to the next level?
Experience. That's a very important experience, understanding what they're supposed to do. I mean, we've grown from into a company that has certain a certain experience into how things are done. We've
Hmm.
built a differentiator. We built our value. We have a position in the market, and now we just need to execute better on it. I mean, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean we are not going to find new opportunities that we're working on and trying to find those new drivers. But we have one that we need to continue to execute well on it. In order to be able to execute well, you need to have people that have experience in those fields. For example, if we would be looking for a CFO, this should be a CFO that understands how the market works and has previous experience and can help us go from this level to the next one. And this would be an example. So,
Hmm.
and even ourselves as a team, as we grew, and this is something that maybe I didn't mention that strongly before, we started to define our roles even better, trying to split our responsibility. I mean, we still have overview over the business as a whole because we're co-founders, but in our roles as part of the company, we started to say, okay, for example, I'm going to take this part that I'm going to be in charge of, and you're going to have that part that you're going to be in charge of. Of course, when we're going to have a, let's say, a board meeting, for us, the co-founders, we meet and talk. We talk from a high-level perspective, but each of us has its very clearly defined direction. For example, our CTO does the tech. If you're wondering, for example, how us, which are because we're two CEOs and we have that role split right now, it's pretty clearly defined, for example, into who's taking who's covering, for example, day-to-day operations, who's looking into new growth opportunities, for example, let's say more into R&D. So we have those clearly defined inside our team to not create that confusion. And yes, we talk because communication is important, but we have to have those clearly defined so we know what we're doing. And this is what we would look for new executives that would join our team in order to scale.
Yeah, experience speaks for itself, and the size of the pie can significantly increase with a new pizza chef over there
Mm-hmm.
that can bring a new
Yes.
recipe or streamline processes or yeah, I think the path you're going towards is very natural. So appreciate sharing the case study with me. Okay, so we started sharing some of the most valuable lessons that we had from the pandemic, such as the hike in cost of talent, the scarcity of talent because they started working directly with the client. Is there anything else you would mention as a valuable lesson from the pandemics?
Mm, that a lot of things look more difficult than they actually are to implement. I mean, of course, the transition to remote, everybody, and we're not remote, we're still hybrid. I mean, we have a hybrid policy,
Yeah.
3 days in the office, 2 days from home every week, and we're pretty focused on that. I mean, we have longer remote periods that are approved and so on, but we still believe that people should be in the office. But everybody was so afraid of remote people not being there. How are you going to manage it? And it worked, of course.
Hmm.
In some cases, productivity went lower. There were some negatives, some drawbacks. There was the security risks, vulnerabilities, and so on that you had to tackle, but it wasn't as difficult or daunting as people expected it to be. I mean, we went through it, and the companies that succeeded, I would say, got more mature out of it. They become more mature. They learned a lot of lessons. Um, that would be the main thing that I would extrapolate it to other areas as well. Things that looked difficult became not necessarily that
Possible.
they are
Became
easier, but
possible.
they can be
Yeah.
overcome with preparations and structure. This is what we learned out of it, and it made us look even more ahead and analyze more scenarios and being prepared for more scenarios. For example, if we now see some things happening, we try to look ahead and say, okay, how can we protect? What's the backup plan? And we're
Hmm.
trying to do that. We're more aware of how certain things can impact certain levers in the company that can, I know, impact other areas and so on.
It's a living human being, right? Or
Yes.
entity, let's call it, not human being, but it definitely gets affected, like a watch each beat in it.
But
Okay,
we also learned, sorry, Darius, we
please
also
no.
learned that face-to-face meetings are still the
Golden,
best way to do
golden.
whatever, to meet a new client, to close a contract, to meet with a colleague. I mean, online showed us that that's still number. I mean, when we had when the pandemic started, and we said, okay, we no longer need to travel to our customers to meet face to face.
Hmm.
It's perfect. You don't need to pay for the plane. You don't need to pay for the accommodation. I mean, or whoever pays, it's less cost. it's easier. No, it's not because you lose the connection. If you're not there with them, I mean, if it's someone you met that you like, it's okay. But if it's someone new, you never get to that connection. You would just say, I know that person. I had a meal with them. We ate together, we talked, or even if it's not a meal, we were in the same meeting room for 3 hours. I know them. I've seen how they move around. I don't know. There are no verbal and
Yeah.
paraverbal cues that you can. It's very difficult to see them in an online meeting sometimes.
Oh, I am a strong believer in the power of in-person handshake, and I
Mm-hmm.
did some wild things even in pandemics with the paperwork and everything, just to meet clients and shake their hands and
Yeah.
reassure people that we're heading in the right direction, delivering as promising. So I think nothing can beat or replace the in-person presence.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
its frequency might be less needed once you've spent some time with people and developed a trustworthy relationship and you have a bit of background or some common jokes, some common memories. But I still strongly advocate for the in-person handshake and
Mm-hmm.
conversation and eye-to-eye candid conversation. Okay. Thanks, very valuable lessons. But there's a 100 years ago, when people would mention they would go through a crisis, whether it's a health crisis or an economic crisis, or a resource crisis, it would take a cycle of 50 years, 100 years, 30 years. Nowadays, it's like every year is something, or every 2 years it's something, right? So I guess my conversation is heading towards the question: what have we learned from the current recession so far?
Then we need to be agile. I think that's the very agile and very dynamic and very solution oriented. Um, I cannot say it's easy. I think it's difficult because things are changing so fast and so often. It's always something new. I mean, you had blockchain, you had AI, then you had some AI,
Hmm.
you had crypto, you had the NFT, you had the pandemic at the same. I mean, if you're looking from a tech perspective, you have all these things that are coming and are new, and you have to stay up to date with them while you're still doing good work and you're keeping that high quality standard into what you're doing, which
Hmm.
means reading a lot. And it becomes more and more, I would say, more and more difficult to be able to stay up to date with so and much information that gets released. Uh, but this is why where when you have to do five things, for example, you have to read five things, you're going to find a way. You have to be resourceful and find a way to be able to get that information, but not having to go through the five of them. So it pushes people to become more resourceful, more efficient, optimize certain workflows to be able to achieve more. This is what the entire situation that coming up right now is pushing out. I would say at least us and everybody to do, trying to achieve more with I would say with
With
not
the same
necessarily with
input.
less, but it can be with less. Work smarter, not necessarily harder, and trying to achieve more with that.
So basically, it's about return on investment, whether we're investing
Mm-hmm.
time or resources or folks or whatever it is. Our return needs to be better, more efficient,
And
less waste
mhm.
over there. So leaner, think faster, think more agile. Can we conclude that this would be the lesson?
Yes, make and to put it, if you're looking for a plan, you're still making plans, and it's normal. Make plans, make 1 year plans, make that 3 year forecast if you have to, but be comfortable with changing them faster and more frequency than before. I mean, not saying like before you would say we have this 1 year plan. I mean, 2 months, 3 months change. We're not going to change anything because things do not
Mm-hmm.
change that fast. Now we need to go in there and we need to make some changes and tweak it a bit. Because if you would wait 1 year without doing anything at the speed of which things are happening right now, I mean, you wouldn't go out of business, but you for sure going to to remain behind. And that's 1 year. If you're going to do the same thing for 2 or 3 years, you're going to become slowly obsolete. I mean, this is my view on the on the issue.
Yeah, I really resonate with it. If you're standing still, you're already lost. You've fallen behind.
Yes.
So it's only moving forward. Of course, the velocity of this move can differ depending on the challenge, but
Mm-hmm.
moving forward is progress. So
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you over here. Now, there's a very sensitive topic coming with the next question, and it's about the price sensitivity of Eastern European talent. I'm talking here about especially Romanians and Polish folks, but we're talking about now the Romanian talent, which is scarcer than the Polish talent.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an influx now of talent from Ukraine, right? Which has crossed borders, whether it's virtually or in person over
Mm-hmm.
there, but they become extremely accessible to European clients and US clients in general. So I want to ask you, how are we seen as talent? And if we're expensive, why pay that premium in comparison with, Western society talents and US talents especially?
Mm-hmm. We've heard that, we've got that, we've had clients saying, okay, you cost us similar to hiring people in our own country.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, right, yes, and things are increasing. And I said, why is it so damn expensive? Because the life living there, it's cheaper there, for example, in our country. And it was the only way in which that the only way in which we could present this was, all right, we're not competing on price, and we never did compete on price. We're competing on value. And if that company would deliver the same value, and you want to go with them, go with them. But we're having our USP, our unique selling proposition, our differentiator that we know how to do really well, and we're gonna do that. And this is why you came to us. It's no doesn't matter that we're in Romania or in the US or in Germany, we will do the same thing. And that's the value that we provide. This is how we're different than other companies that do the same. And it's still a price difference because it's always going to be a slight price difference in rates. For example, if you look at the US rates of $200 to $300 per hour, companies in Eastern Europe will not invoice that much.
Yeah.
Will invoice, let's say, closer to that, but they're not going to be at the same price. So it's also all going to be a slight price advantage. Maybe not as big as it was before, and it's becoming that the trade-off between having the team closer to me and speaking the same language as me, or going somewhere else that's remote and I'm not getting that benefits anymore. Uh,
Yeah, can I interrupt you a
yeah,
bit over here? Sorry, and about this topic, because
yeah.
I've lived this myth that time zone and culture does not matter. I've lived it, and it's a huge mirage. So nowadays, for me, I would start to question what's the culture, what's the time zone, what's the
Mm-hmm.
working habits, right? So, for example, after spending quite a significant time in Asia, I came to understand why, some of the way of working and culture is as it is, right? So, expecting European standards of delivery or US standards of delivery would just make people prone to failure if the delivery center
Mm-hmm.
is from there, no matter how much they try to adjust or understand or the sacrifices they make. So I need to consider that when building an offshoring or nearshore or an outsourcing team
Mm-hmm.
and partnering with a vendor. So I can 100% reassure you over here that whoever is ignoring cultural, time zone,
Mm-hmm.
and language factors is doomed to failure, regardless of the size of the business.
You put it perfectly. And that's something we had conversations with our clients in terms of that we're working a lot with US customers. We opened last year an office in Austin, in Texas. And with our customers, we have those conversations. What are the time zones? How are you working? can we overlap? What are the overlaps that we need to do? What are the one of the questions, and I believe it's a very important question. What are you expecting from a technical partner?
Mhm.
What are your expectations? Because again, as you mentioned, you were mentioning, you might be expecting certain delivery delivering in certain ways, or and if you're not aligned on those, then it's not gonna work. And this is something we talk about from the beginning. And one reason for which I would say it's worth paying sometimes similar to what they're paying in their countries is that, I mean, you would go to the US and yes, you would have those rates, but you also have higher rates. You have $400 or $500 rates. I've heard about companies that were charging $500 an hour or even more, and then yes, you would go to, let's say, Romania, and then you would find a company and would say you're similar to what we're being charged in the US, yes, but you're not necessarily you're similar to some companies, but you might still be a difference towards the top company that's charging there, and you might have a higher chance of finding one of the top companies in a country that, for example, Eastern European country, maybe an Asian country, a very good company would pay comparable rates to those in your country, but not at the same level to the a company that would be at the same position. I don't know if I'm making the point the right way, but relative to the same position in the market, there's still a difference in pricing. You can be a leader in your market here, and you would charge rates, let's say, similar or maybe even a bit above the average rates there, but you're not going to to charge the rates a top leading company would charge in US, because that's a difference into those. It is how I'm looking at it, because it's a very big difference into how much, and it wouldn't be justified if they were asking about all the costs.
To rephrase this case study that you're mentioning over
Mm-hmm.
here, I guess in the end is yes, there is still a delta between what you're paying in
Mm-hmm.
Western societies or US
Yes.
in general in comparison with uh, cost of Eastern Europe talent. Has that delta been reduced? Yes. And that has to
Mm-hmm.
do with the entire pandemic and inflation, and with the fact that it's becoming an effect of globalization, and we're addressing a global market.
Mm-hmm.
We're no longer looking at things isolated. Is it worthy to pay the premium? Yes, because that is
Mm-hmm.
tightly linked with the USP of that company. So if that USP, what differentiates that company, seems to add the value that will
Mm-hmm.
justify for you that price, you should think about it twice and can really consider it. If there is no unique selling proposition over there, it's very vanilla, and you don't feel the certainty that that price justification is the right one for you, you need to do more homework. You need to do a bit more of the groundwork, and ask the uncomfortable questions that can be asked even from a vendor to see if they're vanilla or not about um, delivering something in general. But I think there is something unique about talent over here in way they have been raised and educated to attack problems,
Mm-hmm.
and not having those barriers that I'm just a developer, I shouldn't be speaking with the client, or I'm just
Mm-hmm.
a tester, I shouldn't be playing the business analyst role if I have a 25% headroom allocation left over there. From my experience, this is what made Eastern Europe talent
Mm-hmm.
unique, right? This eagerness to do more and to help in other ways, that, and not just say yes, we will deliver. Actually, commit to delivering what was promised over there. But as a general rule of thumb, can we say that if good things actually cost? I think that's that's the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line of it, right?
Yes,
I mean, if you
yes.
gotta go and buy a bottle of cognac, right? It's gonna cost
Mm-hmm.
something because it has been aged for 10 to 50 years, right? So of course there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a price differentiator, and surprise, surprise, that bottle of cognac will have a very similar price regardless of the country or the hotel you're drinking it. So
Right.
it kind of goes
Right.
maybe in a similar way with the talent, but there is a serious issue over here in terms of price sensitivity for startup owners or founders or creators that want to work with an agency or a software development company from Eastern Europe. And my question for you is, how do we how do we tackle or how do we manage such potential clients that are so price sensitive in general? And you mentioned a bit earlier about the talking about the values and unicity of what makes you stand out as an agency, but then can we go a bit more granular, a bit more practical, and say, look, I'm having this challenge of making this guy sign for the price that I want. So what are a few tips and tricks in managing such challenging situations, I would say?
All right. So I would have said we already know that they're price sensitive. Usually, the first thing that you're looking to find is why did they came to you? Because did they came to you because you have that strong USP? They found out about you and they want to build something that you really well know for.
Mm-hmm.
Do they came to you? And you mentioned one example that I want. We had one client from the US, and I asked him, why did you consider the company from Romania? And he said, I know that companies from Eastern Europe have do really well in sciences because I was born in a country in Eastern Europe and then I moved to the US and I know
Wow.
the educational system that you go through and I want to work with a company there. I was like pretty impressed. It was you felt really proud coming from this area where you do so much maths and science and so on. And this is what they said. And there's another way. A lot of them, yes, do come because there are lower costs than they have in their own countries. Now, one thing that's I always say is don't talk about price first, talk about value. And if you talk about value, it's more similar to what you were saying previously into what would other provide for the same value
Mm-hmm.
and what would us provide for the same value and trying to very easily create that comparison in your mind. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna deliver this and on top of it we're gonna add this and that. And this creates a more compelling proposition sometimes. Um, I've learned a good lesson in terms of what you're presenting. I sent to one client at some point, they asked for an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent them an estimate. It was just the estimate with very few little text because they asked for that really fast. And I was like, let's go fast and then we're going to go through all the details. And they picked someone else. And I was very curious why they did that. And I was asking, and then they said like it was not the most professional document. I was like, all right. And I was thinking that there were so many things that we were doing and we didn't add, and then I created a very easy thing. It's more like a template, things that
Yeah.
we're doing in every project, but now it's a
Yeah.
20-page document. It's not a one pager. Of course, they would have gotten the 20-page document. I was like, they want to move fast, let me just send that. I created that, and then now I'm sending, and it's not a one pager, it's a 20-pager for some customers, and they go through it and it showcases all those differences that someone else might not add. Someone else from another country might not do those. And we're people pinpointing what we're doing differently and why we have a choice that would cover their needs better. And always focusing on value. Always focusing on value, on success. We have some different things from what then other companies are doing. Even our role, we don't have project managers or product managers. We have product success managers. And this already changed the entire paradigm with adding on your project a product success manager. They're responsible for the success of the project together with you. They want to help you. So we're trying to do that. And if it's still pricing, then it's not us. Maybe we're not the right partner. We might not be the right collaborator for you if you're looking only for having a decrease in prices. And what we've seen is that some
Yeah.
of the clients that we had come back, if they go to just for price, we had one or two cases where they came back and said, like, we worked with companies that were very low price and they didn't deliver. And they came to us and, like, can you help? And I would say the best clients that we had and the most understanding of this issue is the client that tried to go for that cheap product, and they didn't got a qualitative result, a qualitative outcome.
They got
And
what
now they
they're paid
know,
for, Alex. They got what they paid for.
yes,
And
yes,
then that goes also for other quality standards,
yes,
and they're not to blame. I'm sharing from my background as a management consultant. I work very um, efficient with people that were on the verge of hitting insolvency or were on a path of stagnation and frustration from a while to be able to appreciate someone coming in, helping them pivot and quickly change business strategy and prices and client management and product validation that you've mentioned over there. So when they have this background, I consider them also ideal clients because they know what they're losing
yes.
when they're trying to say something, right? So
It
they,
is a
yeah.
triangle. It is a triangle. You have three things. You have time, budget, and quality. Pick two. You cannot have all three. I mean, you cannot have low cost, high delivery time, and high quality. It's impossible. You don't find that. So you have to pick two. Which are the two that you're focusing on? I've asked this question to some clients. What do you want? You want fast delivery times? You want low cost, or do you want high quality? You have to pick two. You cannot pick all three.
And it needs to
And we're
be,
not doing low cost.
yeah,
We're
and
not
it
doing
needs
low
to
cost.
be
So.
an educated decision that you've taken for your product,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not to backfire. So one
Yeah.
important thing, right, to clarify on this case study over here that I think is a really good one because you might deliver as the client wants, but without taking the reassurance that he has committed in writing that he's okay with some of
Mm-hmm.
the minuses over there. You would be terribly shocked to see how they would transform when they see that their product doesn't become what it should become just because they have taken some shortcuts, which you have signaled as red flags. So, just wanted to mention this for those out there that are listening and actually thinking of making such compromises without taking the necessary measures of safety over there in terms of
Good
client
warning.
management. Yeah, client management and
Ve-
crisis management. Say so.
Very, very good warning. Very good warning. And one thing I can tell from our experience is that especially happens with startups because they have one shot or two shots, and
Yeah,
when they see they miss their shot, not everybody is that self-aware and self-accountable to remember or say, okay, it's me. No, they're gonna say, I had one shot, someone's fault. I know. Let me try to blame it on someone else. With bigger companies, it's different because they have multiple budgets. The project fails, and they say, okay, why? And then they look at the results, and then they say, okay, one, two, three. So it might be easier there, but we've seen this very often with startups. And it was like, okay, we put it down. So with this document that we agreed on, it's very easy to look at the document and say, okay, this is what we decided. But if you don't do that, then it's gonna be that game of you're the one that fuck this.
yeah, yeah.
No, you're the one, and then no one's right because you have no evidence on who's right and who's wrong. So it's just back and forth.
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago, about this, you're the one, you're the one. A couple of years ago, I was asked to give a definition about my work to someone that I just could not get through in helping them understand what I do. And I just had to give them the following definition. Said, imagine a room where instead of pointing fingers, we shake hands.
Nice.
So about what you just said right now, there's an entire art in client management, in crisis management, in conflict mitigation that you mentioned over there that needs to be done systematically in advance so that when things go south, we actually take this as an educated decision and we were aware that this was gonna happen. That does not turn into the boiling point that will destroy a relationship
Mm-hmm.
and someone's reputation. I love the idea with the triangle. I do believe that 2 out of 3 it's still good to go. We can dream about 3 out of 3. That's for sure. But I I think I got Yeah, I think I got the key points over here, and I think we're very like-minded when we talk about price sensitivity over here, and value, being more important than price. If you want to get something that is viable out there, um, guys, we're not saying that we're the best in what we do or how we do. We're just saying that we have some values deeply anchored in each of our methodology of work and way of operating, and we don't feel comfortable with just lowering the bar just because, we're gonna sign someone on paper over there. Alex,
Hmm.
is this a good summary?
That's a very good summary. If it's not the client for you, perfectly fine. Someone else will come that's gonna be the ideal client for you, and it's gonna work even better. Because compromises, yes, they are required some time,
Yeah.
but if you keep doing them and you do more than you need, they're gonna bite you in the ass at some point. So
Yeah, I've seen it also, tested it, lived it, so I can I can resonate with that. Now, some of the top. Let's talk about some of the top skills that you need to perform in this industry. You already mentioned about being passionate. You mentioned about keeping an eye for opportunity. You mentioned a bit of naivety over there that is needed, but not necessarily in this industry. That is like a more of a jack of all trades kind of skill to have to be an entrepreneur in general. So what else can we add?
we can shift that. We can shift that. When I say naivety, it's confidence. I think it sounds more positive, even for our viewers. And if you're looking for it, you're confident that you can do it. And confidence sometimes comes with some naivety because you believe
Yeah,
you can do it, but you don't know everything. It's uncertain, but you have to be confident. You have to be confident in yourself and your team that you can achieve a certain goal. And one skill, and that I believe it's, in my perspective, the most important skill of now and for the next years is adaptability.
hmm,
You have to be adaptable to changes because there's going to be so many new things that are going to happen even in the next years. I mean, this year is going to be crazy as well. We have 40 elections, I think, 40 states, 40 different states are having new governors. It's going to be crazy. And that's just this thing. I mean, there's a lot of other conflicts taking on. I mean, the entire world is changing
yeah,
from year to year. And this is not going to end right now. I mean, this is going to go, my perspective, for 1 or 2 more years as well, because whatever happens this year, we're going to feel next year, because only next year the elections are going to come into play. I mean, the outcomes of the elections are going to come into play, which is geopolitics, macroeconomics, everything is going to keep falling until it hits, for example, or impacts positively or negatively the companies, our our company or that and the other. For the example, right now with SVB, and you would say SVB in the US, when SVB fell, none of our clients were affected, but our clients had other clients with other connections that got
yeah,
affected, and it snowballed at some point to the Romanian economy of software development because there weren't that many leads because people stopped. They were
yeah.
panicked about the uncertainty, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
next year is going to be some
everything
adaptability.
basically, yeah, and basically everything is intertwined, right? There's not there
Mhm.
if some corners are cut, if some legislation is being changed, if some overtaxation is being made somewhere, it will backfire. It will backfire. It's just a matter of time of going through the thread of interconnectivity over there with the rest of the world until we see some of those results. So yeah, I I get it. Would you add anything else in this mix for our top qualities?
Resilience. It's
Resilient.
adaptability and resilience because it's easy to give up now when things are changing and maybe you don't get something right. Something is going to come next. It's going to always going to be something else around the corner that you can
Hmm.
take advantage or benefit from. I would say those are. I always think about adaptability. I'm thinking if you're adaptable, you're going to be able to take advantage of the
Hmm.
new opportunities that come. That's always on top of my mind, and of course, doing what you like. Because when you're doing what you like, you're doing a better work with better value, and you're satisfied and you are happy. I know it's abstract to talk about happiness, but I believe if you're finding, I mean, let's not say having satisfaction in your
Yeah.
day-to-day activities, you're going to be able to provide even more and grow. And growth mindset, yes, it goes with adaptability, very intertwined, but having a growth mindset.
Yeah, and I think there's another one you mentioned at the beginning, and I actually it struck me because rarely people can foresee how lonely it is to run a business. I mean, yeah, you guys are co-founders and you have each other, but let's also think of the days in which you split tasks. It's also lonely, right? Because each have their own weight to pull over there, and
Mm-hmm.
business direction to give, and line of business or business unit to actually manage. And guys, it gets really, really lonely out there. But that's just how it is because you are you and your thoughts out there. So if you can find people that you can trust with which you can spar and explore ideas and talk open, I think that's very valuable. And
Mm-hmm.
I can share a bit from my experience. I think it's really important to find someone that you can talk with about your challenges over there. You don't need to go into details, but just talk about the challenges. And you mentioned this, and I didn't want it to go away because I consider it to be very
Mm-hmm.
valuable having someone to talk and share throughout this journey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about East versus West. Which are the markets you guys are exploring, and what are the barriers that you see? And I would also like to talk about the DACH region, right? And what was your experience in Germany, Austria?
All right. So we are looking for Western markets because the products that we build with very high focus on the UI and the UX tend to be more appreciated in markets that are a bit more developed, considering we're working with
Mm-hmm.
new technologies and new patterns and so on, because the level is higher. So we want to provide top-notch solutions, and we're looking for those new trends in order to provide that level. But maybe on other, not maybe, on other markets are not that well appreciated because if the level is lower, you can come with just a tiny bit over it and it works well. You don't have to come with the latest solution. So yes, we were looking to Western markets where more accent is put on certain traits of apps. Um, and you asked me about the DACH region. Yes, two of our markets. One is the US, one is Germany mainly, and also had some customers in Austria. For the DACH region, the main challenge was the language. That and it's more difficult because the new generations speak English really well, but the generations that have, let's say, the baby boomers and some
Mm-hmm.
of the millennials that are the late part of the range don't speak English that well, and it might be more difficult to communicate. And when I'm saying they don't speak English that well, doesn't mean they don't speak English. They speak, but it's more difficult to go into more complex
Yeah, more granular,
abstract
more
and
detailed
yes.
oriented, and again, as you said, it's not like they're not speaking well. It's just the challenge of gluing together the essence. Okay, because
The
yes.
vocabulary that they have in terms of describing certain issues, and then I think they transmitted it, but they actually didn't because they didn't go through all the depth of that challenge. And then you're building something for that challenge, and you see that you didn't cover all the facets of it because they didn't communicated it. And when they went from something really big in German in their mind, they went to a very small filter in English that went to something really bigger in,
Mm-hmm.
for example, our mind. And it was a lot easier for us in terms of communication and language barriers going in on the US market, in the US market, because there we already took removed that let's say challenge. We're gonna
Yeah.
play the challenge. We removed that challenge. We solved that challenge.
Yeah, but there are ups
There
and
was another.
downs, right?
Yeah.
But there are ups and downs. Sorry to interrupt you. There are ups and downs. So no
Mm-hmm.
language barriers, high competition.
Mm-hmm.
Language barriers, moderate
Yes,
competition, right?
indeed,
But huge financial potential.
indeed. We've seen. So there was another trade-off with Germany. It's easy to fly from Romania to Germany.
Yeah,
I mean, we have direct flights. You're getting to Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt. I think we have direct flights to all of them right now. So it's very easy to get to a client. On the other side, going to the US requires a bit more preparations. It's not that easy. I'm not going to be there next day because the flight is longer and other costs associated to traveling to the US. Also, the perception for that the US might have to Europe in general. I mean, you would get to a point, for example, where some people from the US see US as US, and then everything else is just another part of the world, and it's difficult to bridge that gap. I would say it's I don't know the word in English, but there is a difference in terms of perception to other people from somewhere else in the world, from the US. From Germany, we haven't seen that. From the US, we've seen it very, very little ourselves. But this is what a lot of other company founders told us that they weren't that well perceived as companies in the US, considering that they were coming from Romania, especially that they don't have an office there. At least we have foot on the ground, and we're there. So we are in US. We're not having clients from the US in Romania. We are in the US as well. So we bridging that gap.
This is an interesting segue in towards the topic of you guys opening an office in Texas and Austin, right? So you've actually removed those barriers of being seen as just
Mm-hmm.
someone coming and visiting over there, holding a few workshops and making some open days visits, right? And trying to
Mm-hmm.
sell that. It shows commitment. It shows skin in the game. It shows that you're invested in that market over there. But it's not just like a leap of faith to be done. It's also a challenging and expensive step to
Mm-hmm.
do. So I want to congratulate you guys for the boldness of actually going over there. And I think Catalin will hear us. I think he's the one, right? One of the co-founders over there that
Mm-hmm.
has the ground presence. So he can tell
Mm-hmm.
us more about a steak and a T-bone when he comes from there. But yeah, let's before we go and close this topic. Um, I think it's important that we quickly identify these barriers, whether they're language, location, premises, whatever they are, and that we start building a contingency plan and we start working towards the solution. But how how are you guys, dedicating time together for all these challenges? Or how is it booked in the calendar? Is it a weekly thing? Is it a monthly thing? Is it look what I discovered? Is it a common spreadsheet? What is it?
First of all, continuous communication. But yes, we do have regular meetings. And when we tackle new markets, because we had that conversation, what markets are we going to tackle? And we said we have some customers from Germany, we have some customers from the US. Let's tackle both of them. And we started tackling both of them, and then we said, okay, maybe for our size at that moment, let's just go with one. And we chose the US due to lower language barriers, and it was easier to get people. And we've seen that in Germany, when we were bidding on some projects or we were in some conversations, they would pick the ones that would speak better German because again, it was easier to communicate for them. In the US, we didn't have this issue because
Yeah.
everybody in the company speaks good English. So um, let me just get back to yes, we have continuous communication and we do have meetings. We kept them monthly in
Hmm.
terms of company meetings in order to share knowledge and share some things that we've learned, new projects, new initiatives that we're taking as a company, moving now towards a more granular approach in which we have shorter meetings that enable higher agility to a weekly basis. Because this is what we've been talking about in a previous point, how fast we need to move in the current economic or the entire environment. We need to adapt really fast to it. And one way to do that is having points in which you make sure you exchange that valuable information that you can use maybe in the next week. So we're moving from that monthly to a weekly approach right now. This is in terms of meetings with
On this
all
topic,
hands
yeah,
meeting,
all hands on
all
deck.
hands
Yeah,
meeting.
all hands on
Yes.
deck meeting with respect to
Mm-hmm.
removing blockers, clutter,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
finding new ways to do things better or more streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it, Roger. That so. Um, like everywhere we go, bottom line, regardless of the market we're attacking, there will be cultural, maybe language barriers reduced to minimum, but not completely removed. Doesn't mess your native, can't really
Mm-hmm. Of course.
completely remove them. But double backing or backing up your confidence from the way you speak or removing those barriers with products that actually work and deliver as promised is one of the universal languages with which you can't go wrong, whether in satisfying clients or making them refer you
Mm-hmm.
eventually. And you've been through all these experiences, right? And uh, you've learned a lot of valuable lessons. And my question would be, now that you've passed this, bootstrapping startup kind of phase, right, and you've become more mature, and you're heading in a specific direction with a specific mission, right, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows what they have to do. Is what are you deciding as a bigger and more mature company to actually reinvest in right now?
What we are reinvesting right now, we continue. Let me just make sure I got the question right. So, what we're
Please.
investing time,
any
whatever
kind of any
resource,
kind of
everything.
resource any kind of resource, because money
Mm-hmm.
is more accessible than time, right, especially these days when you
Mm-hmm.
can find finances like on every corner. So all kind of resource. Now, at the beginning we were investing time in building a minimum uh, sustainability revenue stream, right? Just to give it
Mm-hmm.
an example. But right now, we're investing in building an executive team, for
Of
example,
course,
or
of course.
we're building investing in sales offices around the world. Or yeah. So how did this
Mm-hmm.
change, and where's the direction heading?
Perfect question. So, I was continuing on what we're doing right now, continuing our expansion to the US, looking
Hmm.
at new markets as well, in strengthening our differentiator, because a differentiator evolves in time, as you said. It keeps evolving. You can always make it more powerful. And what I mean by more powerful, for example, our validation right now is more general and it keeps growing on certain issues, which
Hmm.
becomes not necessarily an agnostic validation process, but a more business niche process that can be applied in a certain industry. So continuing on strengthening that unique value proposition, as well as increasing seniority, because
Hmm.
we were talking about how we can deliver more value, bring more impact, our vision as everything else. And this is right now expanding, increasing seniority, and strengthening our unique value proposition. If I were to put it into three directions.
Got it. So it's actually in line with what you said at the beginning. To do things better, you need more experience. Whether you're expecting this
Mm-hmm.
from a new shareholder or executive or colleague joining, it needs to be an added value there in
Mm-hmm.
terms of experience and skills to help you emphasize your differentiator as a software
Mm-hmm.
development agency. Have I concluded this
Mm-hmm.
accurately?
Yes.
So I think it would be important to touch the hot topic of having a delivery center in Asia, or let's call it a global capacity center. Um, have you considered this? This is a natural trend for companies that reach a certain level of maturity from Europe and US, and I'm asking you if you guys explored this and what would be your pros and cons.
I would say very briefly, we focused a lot on having the development in Cluj-Napoca, our city in
Mm-hmm.
Romania, in order to have the team closer to each other. When we were talking about expanding to the new markets, we were expanding as sales offices or business development offices with partners on the ground. Uh, so not that much. We weren't didn't get that in depth into those conversations. I researched a bit some solutions, for example, with Deal, and I think the other one is I don't remember the other name, but Deal, the software that enables you to hire very easily people in
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah.
regions, but not right now. I
Mm-hmm.
know a company does it. I've been talking to them to understand how it's working for them in terms of communication and so on. They said it's pretty good. They had some blockers in terms of some blockers, but I've heard that they fixed them. It's something that most likely we're going to come back at a certain point in time. But for now, what's really important for us is to grow our office in Cluj. So this is the reason for which we didn't explore more into that direction.
Okay. Okay. So, how do we fight attrition, keep employees loyal, and lift the spirits over there in a very competitive industry
Hmm.
with very competitive compensation packages?
Yes, the culture is the main. It's the culture. That's the most important thing. I've seen a really good graphic a few days ago. I mean, it had four quadrants, and one axis is the compensation, of course, and the other axis is the culture inside the company. And of course, the top right quadrant, the best one, has high compensation and really good culture. We're working from both directions. The culture, we have a really good culture. We're always working on improving our compensation package to stay competitive to the market. What we're looking striving for is being in that 75% quartile.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be in that end of the on the spectrum, so we do not have those issues that people are leaving from us to better compensation packages. Of course, there's always going to be someone that pays better in any market for anyone.
Yeah.
And we're working from the other side on the culture. And we have some values, three values in fact: authenticity, unity, and vision that we strongly believe in. We've set them together with a group of people that we were in the company at the point when we got 20. We were around 20 people at that point in time when we set those values together. And where everybody said, how do you see someone, a Linnify, how would a Linnify look like? And everybody put some attributes, and then we took all of them. It took 2 days, I think, 2 days of brainstorming to get from all those attributes to three values that we are going to be the values, the core values of the company. We have some principles that we adhere to. This came after we read a very good book, Ray Dalio, Principles from Ray Dalio, where he was talking about having some set principles. And we focus a lot on transparency inside the company. And I believe that's very important. Being able to talk to people like they're your colleagues, friends sometimes, but your colleagues even more importantly to keep it professional and
Mm-hmm.
not employees. And I make this distinction because when you're looking at someone and when we're as employees, we already created hierarchy and we're thinking that we should know some things that they shouldn't. Now we're coming from a perspective in which we're working to get together to the same goals,
Mm-hmm.
and we all need to understand. Of course, some people might not be that interested, but some people might want to know more. and that's very transparent in our company. We did something else. We created a stock option plan for the employees to keep them more incentivized. That also we're working together, we grow together, and you see that very clear relation to the growth of the company as well.
That's the stock option plan. It's really interesting that you guys started on that path. I mean I see it more of a bigger T-shirt size over there. But you know what? I think there's a uniqueness if actually a company of your size starting this because the company grows at accelerate rhythm, right? So if you would have a share that let's say it's $10 today, it has the chances of becoming $1,000 in the next 4 or 5 years, as opposed to a there are many companies listed over there on the stock market, and you can see like a delta of 7, 8,
Mhm.
9% because they've been there like forever and they have kind of the same products and everything. So the chances of them having more value in their pocket because we're talking about value is can be more disruptive in this scenario than the classical one that we are both aware of. Okay.
And one reason, and that's the most important, this is our unique selling proposition for people. We are the fastest path for them to bring unique value in the world. And this is what we're doing differently. I mean, of course, you can go
Nice.
somewhere else. There's going to be, I know, more laid back,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not that intense, maybe easier. Maybe you're going to get a tiny bit a bigger compensation package. But you're not going to stay up to date. You're not going to grow that fast. And in the way in which we connected everything is that here is the path where you're going to grow the fastest. Yes, it's going to be more difficult, but we're also coming with the incentive that difficult transforms into value that all of us are somehow taking benefit from. And this is how we thought about the entire thing that we provide our colleagues. And there's always also the question that people ask, well, why start in a, let's say, a smaller company? For example, we're 40, we've been 50, we're fluctuating
Yeah.
in that area right now, and not go to a corporation. Where, of course, in a corporation, you're going to have a lot more stability. You're going to have that right path clearly set for you 5 years from now. I'm joking, but very
No,
clearly set
I get
in
what
front
you're
of you.
saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and actually, most of them intrinsically want to explore more, which is
Mhm.
something that's going to get killed from day one, most probably on a corporate ladder where you have your own slice department and that's it, your own
Mhm.
instructions over there. But I think these are some of the advantages that more and more the new generation of employees see them from the beginning, right? Because you hire
Mhm.
people in their 20s or in the
Mhm.
mid of their university years, so you can see that things like these matter, right? I'm very happy when I hear someone saying, "Oh, but we don't have a chance to actually learn on how to apply pricing strategies, for example, or what does it take to become a project manager or what does it take to become a community manager or so
Mhm.
it's something that they're signaling out there. Of course it can be also BS, but let's stay positive over here
Mhm.
and think that
Of
they
course.
actually have a genuine interest for it. Okay. So culture can work a lot in attracting, keeping,
Mhm.
shaping. I think because I know a bit of background about you guys, right? I want to bring in shaping because I've seen a lot of talents that have grown within the company and got different roles that they haven't thought of when they started with you guys. So that's why uh, I mean to say that culture can also shape folks into roles that help them release and take advantage of their true potential and talents over there.
And that's beautifully said.
Okay.
beautifully said, and it was one of the best moments is when you see people that you've been working with that, and you remember when you started and you see how much they grew over time. And we were talking about inspiration when we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
the co-founding team in the beginning, but we when you're creating that environment where you inspire, this is what we're looking at, finding people that inspire us, they inspire each other, because you all want to be inspired every day to understand more, to learn more, to find out more. I mean, going back, I will add one more thing: curiosity to passion and everything. Being curious,
Nice.
being curious.
Yeah, curiosity actually, is not only going to kill the cat, but it's also going to help you develop and grow and come out of your comfort
Mhm.
zone and discover some
Yes.
of your talents over there. Okay. So let me ask you about the, let's say, top 3 or 5 lessons that you guys learned from the US experience so far, having the office presence over there, going through the hustle of actually opening something there locally. So, what did you learn about the culture, the clients, and the expectations? Can you share some of the insights, please?
hmm Um, I will start with they are more open. I mean, the American culture is more open in terms of conversations.
Hmm.
And not necessarily when I say open is they're more direct.
Oh,
They are
okay.
more direct. This is what we felt from the conversations. They are more direct. They tell and more. I don't know if they're more friendly. They're more. I would say bit open is the word, because I've been talking to people there, and
Hmm.
they're always welcoming us. Come to us. We're gonna show you around. They're a very welcoming culture in
So
terms of
it's
that.
it's
The
quite
client is
cozy,
important.
right? It's quite cozy to break into
hmm
a relationship over there. You can,
Yes.
this what you're trying to say, that they're actually being open and going through the efforts of you quickly understanding what they're trying to
hmm
achieve, do, or want. Am I understanding this
hmm
correctly?
Yes. Yes. They're not trying to stay mysterious. For example, I I
Uh-huh.
I, I don't have the right words for this.
No, I
It's
think
a
it's good.
feeling.
Mysterious. Yeah, mysterious
Yes.
is like it's talking with half of mouth about a problem. That's a mysterious
hmm
way of presenting something to. But if you don't get all the facts quickly, you cannot tell them if you can deliver the right solution at the right price at the right delivery point, right? Or within
hmm
the expected delivery term. So I guess this is a big plus, right, for those interested and listening, that they can actually have such experiences in which uh, openness, candor, and coziness is mixing, so that you can understand how you can help that client. Okay, that would be one. What would be others?
They are Another one would be they are more accustomed. I mean, a lot of the things we learn in general in Europe when we're looking at investments, we're looking at startups.
Mm-hmm.
We take from the US, and we read books that were written in the US for the US, and then we see that they don't apply exactly in our countries of residence in Europe. I mean, everything related to investments, growth, and so on, they come from startups that were built in the US, the majority. And because of that, the culture and the knowledge in those terms are higher there. And there's a higher probability to find people that have basic concepts already covered than we've seen in other countries. At least this is from our personal experience, but there's a higher chance for them to understand some startup concepts there.
Okay, so it's also in terms of familiarity and educational
Yes.
background for or with respect to working with a software development partner. If I understood that correctly,
Mm,
or towards how what the process is, what's necessary to be put over there within the recipe to actually work. Is this that kind of
mm,
familiarity we're talking about?
More familiarity. That's a very good word with startup related concepts, not necessarily including working with a software development agency, but startup related concepts. Understanding. that they could raise investment at a certain point in time, that they could go to certain steps, focusing more on validation than or understanding more the need of validating the product, because they already know a lot of the stories that from startup that went from zero to a billion in the US, and they're more close to them, and it's more natural because it's part of the culture. This is what, again, but it's subjective, and I would say it's subjective for me. This is what I felt when looking at how they tackle certain discussions.
But you know what? It makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're not talking in general, but at least the community you encounter, because it's within their DNA, right? They are the
Mm-hmm.
startup culture themselves. They started with these concepts, and they are the know-how point from which is cascaded to the rest of the world. So makes a lot of sense what you're saying, looking at this objectively, right? So just from the experience that you've shared so far. Okay, what else? Do we can we find another one?
Mm-hmm. I would say another one that I've seen, again, it's general and it's very frequently spoken about. They know how to do sales and marketing. I mean, they have, it's general, but it's a higher chance of finding people that know how to sell their idea a tiny bit more confidently, not necessarily better, more confidently than we've encountered in other parts. Well, I can just make a transition and talk about how people sell their ideas in Romania.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more confidence there because they believe more, and this is what we're working a lot with a lot of startups, trying to tell them, okay, you know your idea, you know your social, believe in it when you're talking to them, and yes, then you're gonna talk about everything else that's under the hood. It's about how you're starting the pitching your vision, your product. There they start pitching your product, their vision, and then in the next call, you're gonna go to the nitty gritty things that are under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And here people start, okay, we're doing this, and then they start talking to the nitty gritty problems that they have, and you're already thinking, okay, this is not gonna work. So you get with the feeling that it's going to be difficult and complex. There they give it that spin that we're gonna change the world. And this is what I've seen, and that's selling and marketing, and that
That's
I'm talking
culture.
about.
That's culture.
Yeah, yeah.
And regardless of your question, education will provide an answer also.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's culture. It's communism. Reminiscences is different
Mm-hmm.
growing up opportunities. It's different educational background. Yeah. So you can see that some of these will actually hint towards where that owner or co-founder is by the way he's talking or promoting or
Mm-hmm.
spreading some of his concerns and ideas over there. So very interesting, and thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you can recall, or we can move to the
On
next
this
one?
aspect, I would say, on this aspect, my co-founder that you mentioned, Katalin, that has been opening the market for us. He's been in the US for a longer time. He even wrote two articles on this, on what are the differences. He's been a lot more in touch with the culture than I was. And if you were to resume it to a point, you put it again very nicely into one word. It's culture, it's mindset. It's the mindset about tackling a certain challenge. This is the main difference. A more proactive of doing, let's do something, let's find a solution, let's work, let's that type of mindset, more startup, a more startup oriented mindset, I would say.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
everybody can extract from that. I know it might be abstract from certain perspective. Everyone can extract from that whatever they would like. But I would say, oh, look at all the startups and case studies about startups that grew there from when they were young until they become billion-dollar companies, and what the mindset of the founders were. And
Mm-hmm.
we've seen that very frequently in the US customers and founders that we've been working with that try to make more and grow.
Well, I think that the conversation got so interesting that I forgot to give you the heads up about timing with respect to our podcast.
Cool. Then,
So that's a good sign, right? Because that's a genuine
mhm.
conversation about real business aspects and sharing from passion and from experience and wanting to give back to others, that maybe didn't have the occasion to walk on this painful path or the opportunity to explore this joyful growth. Uh, but I am heading towards one of my last questions for today, and that is about the fact of you guys thinking of getting the company listed and being over there on the stock market, and if you're exploring this as a next phase as a source of finance to develop.
Mhm. That's a very good question. We started exploring that direction. We're exploring multiple directions at the same time, but that's one of the directions we're exploring, especially considering that going through that process, not necessarily this year, next year, but in a
Mm-hmm.
few years, going through that process increases the maturity of the company. And once you're on the stock market, you get a lot more trust and you're able to acquire more customers because people see you as more trustable because you already went through that process and you already have to do some reporting and
And some
monitoring of
auditing,
certain
yeah.
business. So yes, we did consider that. It is something that we're looking at. We see that as not necessarily as an end point in time, as an exit, as people call it. It is an exit because people get liquidity, but you don't see it necessarily as
It's
a
an
liquidity.
exit to the next gate.
Yeah, yes, just the next milestone at some point in the future.
Okay. Well, Alex, I want to thank you for your time and for the valuable input over here and sharing your thoughts, experiences, and let's say lessons learned over the years. Is there anything other topic you would like to touch or anything you would like to say as a conclusion for today's call?
Only this, whoever is watching and whoever is building products, because we all want to make the world, and this is my assumption, we all want to bring value in the world and bring impact, focus on validation, focus on understanding how that product meets the needs that you're looking to solve. And this would be something that I would give to our viewers that are going to watch our podcast. Um, and it's been a pleasure being here with you, Darius, today and going through all these questions. Time did flew by. Thank you for the invitation and keep innovating. Yes, and this is the end. Keep innovating.
Yeah, let's keep exploring and innovating. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.